Well, I'm going to attempt to build this thing up. I've got it all torn down. I built it up to show how it's put together. These are the main components I have laid out here. This is, it's called the frame. It has two N20 motors in it. These are the connectors you need. I think they're called JST to hook up to the receiver board. It comes with the transmitter. It comes sold as a pair. 3 AA batteries. The wires run through out here. This is a hack job I did, but I've changed the file since then so that you can run the wires through with the battery connector and its switch all hooked up. So you can wire that all up ahead of time and run them through that hole there. The door that holds the battery on, it's just it's got little angle parts on it. You put them in there like that. The switch is the one that I always use. I have a link to it in the description on Thingiverse. It's just wired up as an on-off switch. Your black wire goes from the battery straight to the receiver board. Your red wire goes through the switch to the receiver board. This little thing right here that holds the caster, there is a, I can't remember the size, I think it's 3/8 ball bearing in here. The size will be in the Thingiverse description. And it sits in the bottom of this. This is called a clamp, caster clamp or something like that. Don't remember right now. But it has a post in it that goes down and sits on top of that caster. So you'll put that all together, and it also holds the switch in place. And you just have two screws that go up and thread into this. 3mm screws. Everything is a 3mm screw of various lengths. But they come up and screw into this to hold that all together. Just make sure your caster is free. That's what the tail end's going to ride on. The wheels are made in two pieces. The hub is glued in. That way you can paint the hubcap separately. These are just two O-rings on each wheel from a Harbor Freight kit. The screws I just use screws that come in a kit like this. They have 5 different sizes, and then I just refill them, buy the separate screws and refill them as I need them. That way I always have a length that I need. The O-rings come in this kit from Harbor Freight. There'll be some springs we need that come in this kit from Harbor Freight. There's also one other part we're going to need, or a couple other parts. We're going to need some 3mm rod cut to specific lengths, like that. Not very much of it. And we're going to need some of these grommets. I think 4 of them. This is a little grommet I got. I bought this kit at a garage sale years ago. It comes with grommets in it. That's where I got those. I'm sure you can still buy them. It's just going to be a matter of finding the properly sized ones on Amazon. From the little information that Amazon gives you, you can see it right there. The size that it is. I believe it's called a 3/16 grommet because that's the size hole that it fits in. But this part here fits in. But there are the dimensions on it. The big round part is 8mm in diameter. The OD of the little part that goes in and rivets is 3/16 or 4.6mm diameter. It's 3/16 length overall. And I can't remember what the ID is, but if you get those other dimensions, you'll have that right. The reason you need those, they go right in here. One here, one here. These are just glued in. And you'll also need them to go in these 2 of them, one for each of these little pieces. I'll show ones I actually used if I can find them. Oh, here they are. Got too much junk sitting around here. Here's the little brass rods cut to a certain length. That's what the string wraps around and fits in these troughs. We'll show putting that together in a minute. But the little grommet is right in here. The meat of the project is this thing here that drives the forks up and down. It also has the receiver board for that transmitter mounted to it. The receiver board is just mounted with these two screws right down here at the bottom. I'm not going to take those apart. This one and this one. Here's the screw that drives this block back and forth. And the screw is held down with these two little clamp pieces, held down with a couple of screws. There's a pulley here and a pulley here, but the string's going to ride around. I believe these screws are 8 millimeters long. Don't want to get those too long, they won't fit. Note the orientation of this block. It's got a cutout here. That cutout's going to go to this side. On the other side of the board, there's a slipping mechanism. Here's the motor right here. And the way it works, let me see if I can find it. The way this mechanism works is you have this gear right here, this one, and this part that goes on the motor. This gear drives the screw directly. It's a one-to-one thing. But inside these, you can see the teeth on here. It's kind of like a hearth, I think was what it's called. I'm sure it's not mathematically that from the way I laid it out, but close enough. But they mesh in here. They can pop over each other if you give them enough force. So this is mounted here. This is mounted on the end of a motor shaft. The motor sits in this sliding tray like this. And there's a spring right here. This is an older version of it. There's a spring right here that allows this motor to float back and forth like this. So when it starts taking too much torque, the motor just moves straight back like this and pops. I'll wire that up and show you. To get it to work, we need to hook up our battery. You want to leave a long piece of wire on this battery to start with, because to make sure you can get it all set up good, because you need to be able to operate the motor. Run your battery wire up through here. This is the battery connection. This one up here. The motor here is already connected to the receiver. Let's turn this on. Hopefully it'll work. Got my transmitter on. Yeah, they bound. So you can see there's a nut going back and forth. This direction here is down. Forks are moving down. You can see what happens when it hits the end of its travel. Can't go any farther. The same thing will happen back this direction. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward, I hope. It's to get this all set up, we need to put things in a known position. And to do that, we're going to stuff this block right in here. And we're going to run that down until it stops. And we can pull that block out. Probably ought to just bump it up against there. Probably don't need to get it too tight. Like that. Then we can turn our radio off. This is not going to be easy to do in front of this cell phone. We'll try it though. Okay, so to assemble that, the only other thing is these clamps right here, this little block right here. But this prints, this slide tray I call it, prints on the bed, this part down. So this has to be a separate part. It gets screwed on like that. You can see its orientation. There is a screw running through that gear into here that holds this part to here. You can see that's on there like that. The spring from the Harbor Freight kit I used, I believe it's this one, is looks like about 7 millimeters in diameter. I don't know, around 10 millimeters long, but I had to cut a little bit off. I think I cut about 1 coil off. If it gets too tight, the motor will still stall. It won't have enough. It won't have enough energy to push itself back off there. Then that part won't even work. It'll just stall out. So you need to cut this down and confirm that it's working before you go on. So you'll want to wire it up like that. Put your spring in there, assemble it all up. Make sure that when it hits the end of these stops, it's doing that thing where it chatters and kicks in and out. After you get this assembly put together, all its parts, we're going to put it in the body. You need to put these grommets in the body first. These grommets give string something to run smoothly on. Otherwise, it'll be running against a 3D print. It might work. I don't know. I never tried it, but didn't seem like a good idea to me. So now we can put we can mount this in here. This will be the fun part. You can just unplug it. Be easier to do it that way. We'll just unplug the battery. We can fish the battery up through there later. That's what these are, just guides for the wires. So it barely fits naturally. I can't remember exactly. I think I did it like this. Not a lot easier than that, believe it or not. Now we're going to put some screws in it. We're going to put 2 screws here and 1 or 2 here, whatever is your preference. Well, I got the 3 screws in it. That's enough for what it's doing. Now let's talk about these things right here. We have to put, I'm not going to take them apart or do another one, but you have to put this grommet right down in here. Hope it's showing up. There's a brass grommet down in there. When you print these, there's going to be a sacrificial layer down in there that you're going to have to remove. That hole will not be through. You need to take your X-Acto knife and trim that all out. There's a sacrificial layer because it prints like this. If it didn't put that layer in there, it'd just be a jumbled up mess down in there. But you clean all that hole out. Then you can put this grommet in here. I've made a couple of tools to ease that situation. This one here will set on here. Let me see if this was this one's already got one in it. You can see it on the back side of that. I had to do all this stuff a few times. But anyway, you can fish that up through there. With it sitting flat on the table, you'll be able to take like a small screwdriver and get in there. And this grommet has like little serrations in it. You can bend those over a little bit at a time or all the way around. And there's another tool. You can come in here and put that in there and tap on it with a hammer to lay them down even more, and then finally put the blunt end in there and tap on it with a hammer until they flatten out. That's exactly how I got those in there. So it does work. The other part, you have to cut some 3/16 material. I use brass rod. The length was in the, this is not the right length. The length was in the Thingiverse description, and put them in here. You probably have to drill out like, I drill out like half a side or all the way through this side and a little through this side with an 1/8" drill. Then it's pretty easy to put them in there like that, and then hammer them in the last little bit. You want them down below the edges here. I think we're going to go ahead and hook the battery back up, because we're going to need to be able to operate this thing as we're working on it. So we'll just run the wire up through. I don't think it matters. I think for battery outlets on this side, I don't think it matters which way we go. This is another one of those things that's going to be impossible to do on camera. I've been using needle nose. Keep bumping the camera. Sorry. I think this one I can get down in there just with my fingers and put it in. Maybe. Maybe not. But it's pretty easy. All you got to do is grab it, since it's oriented that way. Put it like that. Pop it in there. Now we should be able to operate that screw back and forth. Turn our receiver on, or our transmitter, then our receiver. Again, we want to make sure that we're up against that block in the down position. I think that will be okay. Now we can turn it all off. We will be needing to operate this as we work on it. Here are the strings and the springs that I'm using. These are just out of that Harbor Freight kit too. Pretty stiff spring, I guess. You just tie one string onto one end and one onto the other end. They're about, well, first, when you first make it, leave them as long as possible. I would leave them about 10 inches or 260 millimeters long. There's a lot of different strings you can use. These came out of one of those badge reels that I tore down for, well, I was originally going to use it in this project, but it didn't work. So I just used the string. It's one of those badge reels that people wear and put for identification badges on, spring-loaded type thing. This is some half-A control line string I had from a long time ago. That would work. I think dental floss would probably work, not the wax type. But anyway, you tie one end of this. You tie some string on each end of this. Now we're going to take a screw and run it to mount these springs like this to that block, that nut. Well, I have the springs mounted and the strings going around the pulley like that. But as it comes off of, as they come off of the spring, they go to the bottom of the pulley and then over the top. Now what we're going to do, we can go ahead and, well, we can go put these on, I believe. These little inner parts of the forklifts, this hole right here will go down, but there's also a key up here that we will locate on this post that sticks out. So let's just put that on there like that. You can glue them, but I wouldn't glue them at this point. I would make sure everything works, and then if you want to glue them, I never have, just put some super glue in there later, let it seep in and stick them that way. Now we're going to run these strings through. This back one here is what raises it up. The one coming off the spring is what lowers them down. So let's do this one first. Just thread them through like that. Now, we've got it all the way through here, but that's not where it goes. We're going to, there's a little slot down in there that we're going to feed that back through, that string, so that it comes out on this side. Hopefully this will work. Yeah, I can see it there. You probably want to get you some tweezers for doing this stuff. Then it's going to loop over the top. Now we got to do this one, make sure it stays around the pulley. Go through the eyelet. I have to stand up, I can't see what I'm doing. Comes out all the way. Now we want to go back and we're all hung up inside there. Now we want to go back out the bottom, or the way it is here, the bottom, through that slot. Well, I had it, and I pulled it out, actually. Too shaky. Not sure how much of that's showing up on camera, but like that, and then back up like this. Now we have to put what the string is going to go through the middle of these outer forklift parts. But it's going to go through this hole right here, both of them. And they're going to go toward the middle. And what's going to keep them clamped is we're just going to put the fork on there, and the screws, when we tighten them down, they'll clamp that spring down. It's about the only thing I could come up with. It didn't take up a ton of room. So let's I'm going to stand up and do this. Go through like that. Let's do a short one first. I cut these off from before, so make sure you leave them long when you're first doing this. It's not making it easier. Let's see, now we can come down here like this, I hope. Did that pull out? Yeah. Thought I had it through. Say, this is not an easy thing to build. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll try to clamp them with my fingers. And like this. And naturally I pulled one of them out. It's very frustrating. have to make sure you're routed around your pulleys. One of the things I built into it so it make it a little easier, there's a hole right here, and there's a hole right here in this inner part. Run you a toothpick or a piece of filament in there. It'll hold that in place. It'll also locate it in the proper position for us all to work, because that's very important. So you can see in there I have my string. You'll want to put tension on this when you finally do it. You can see the one I'm pulling on is hooked to a spring. The other one's just hooked directly to the block. Might have been easier to leave the battery off till the last minute. Whoa. I hope I didn't do what I think I did. Wrap that thing around the about did it. Once again, we're keeping all that taut. Now we're going to put a fork on there. The little things here go on the inside. That's for place to stow that string away. You want to keep an eye. You want to keep your hands on that string until you keep it taut until you get these going. I put it, again, hold tension on everything. Put that fork right there at the bottom. Probably would have been easier just to leave this battery disconnected till the last. When I was initially building it, I didn't have this block and these holes to set everything up. I had to constantly adjust on it. I think that side's done. This side will be the same way. I don't think I'll show that because it's going to take forever. Well, I just noticed that this doesn't actually have a grommet in it. It's the one I was using. I think my light's about dead. So I'll show putting that in. Here's the little grommet sitting on its post. It's rivet tool, I think I called it. I'm going to have to feed that up through there. And that one's simple. Now we're just going to come in here and bend over those little tabs. Must have been working without the grommet. You might be able to get by without them. I don't know. It just seems like brass was a much better bearing surface than this plastic. Just get them all moved out a little at first, so you're not bending any of them in. It's no fun when you get old and can't see. So hopefully that shows up a little. My light didn't last long. See, we're all bent over a little there. I'll take this thing right here. Use my little brass hammer. Oops, forgot to take that out. Now we're all bent over good. I decided to take the battery loose. I've got them fed through here. Now I'll go back to doing what I was doing before I noticed that. So I've got the other side hooked up. I took the battery off and this part off and then hooked it back up afterwards. Made it a little easier. So I think it's easier if you do it without having this hooked up. As long as you got this in the right place, I think you'll be all right. Got these pins in here, got everything tightened down. You can see the strings go this way, under the bottom, over the top. This one goes to the part that raises it, so it's going to come up around through here, back through that little slit, up over the brass rod, down through here, out the hole. The one with a spring tied to it is the one that pulls it down. So it's going to come same through here, all the way through this, and then back through that slit in the bottom, and then back around this post, up through here, throughout the middle hole. And you're going to pull the whole thing tight. And with these pins or screwdrivers or filament or whatever you've got stuck in these holes, you'll pull these tight and clamp it down with the forks. I put the forks on the bottom. I might have got that one a little high. Even with this. Now we can we have to pull these out to see if it's going to work, because they'll have the forks locked in place. And we're going to turn it on and see if it's working. Transmitter on, receiver on, or binding. Let's go down. Well, that's interesting. I got them backwards. Yeah, that's cool. So this one is right. I got this one backwards. So I will be back in just a minute. I'll take this loose and reroute the strings. Well, I went ahead and swapped them around on that side, switched them, so it's working right now. Up is up, down is down on both sides. Just make sure it's all working right. Okay. Next thing we have to do, we'll put this in. Then we just got to plug our motors in. It's mostly done now. So let's go ahead and turn it off. I want to be plugging things in with on. This goes in. The one on the left goes on the left through that left hole. The one on the right goes through the right hole. And when they go on the board, they'll go on the same way. Just like this. Hope this is showing up. Like that. You can stand it up on its bottom or top. Make sure none of the wires are getting caught anywhere as best you can. 4, I believe, are 8mm screws, or 3 8mm screws, 2 in the front, 1 in the back. Let's see how many times I can drop them. I'm betting a whole bunch. Now we have to plug in the motors to our receiver. We'll try to do it with these. Just make sure you get the left one on the left side. That was too easy. The little thing here goes on the bottom. At least the way I have my board mounted. The board's just held in with one screw. If you use a different board, you'll just have to use, I don't know. There isn't ever a board for these receivers. It's got screw terminals or something on it, I think. And you just have to use some sticky tape or something to put it in there. Finally got it. Now hopefully nothing else is broke. Let's turn it back on. Both motors are working. I have a wire down in there making a funny noise. I need to reroute that. I think it'll be okay. A little light fell off. Magnets are glued in the top here. The array goes on like that. Well, I hope I've conveyed enough information to build a thing in this video. I knew it was going to be a bear to explain. If I didn't and you want to build it, just tell me and I'll see if I can come up with something. I'll make some drawings or something. That might have been a better way to go. Well, thanks for watching.